folks. I'm Justin Edwards. I am a student at UCD, but for the purpose of this talk, I am talking to you as one of the two creators of Batcamp, an art collective that myself and Allison Perrone are in charge of, and this comes out of some work that we did together for that. So we wanted to use chatbots for something different, something that people don't usually use these sort of things for. So our whole creative process is about making something that's new, surprising, and valuable. That's a quote from Margaret Bowden, a cognitive scientist, about what creativity is. You might have your own kind of impression of what makes something creative, but me and Allison like to make things that are computationally creative. We like to use computers in surprising, different, fun, new ways to make something that's creative. And the way that we define computational creativity is something that's either creative on its own, that if a human made that thing, we would call that creative, or something that helps us as human creators to be creative, to enhance us, to be able to make something we wouldn't have been able to make without that computer. So we wanted to test out our ability to use chatbots to enhance our creativity by playing an improv comedy game with them, and we settled on the dating game. It is a game show from like the 70s and the 80s where a contestant would ask 3 mystery bachelors some open-ended questions and then pick one of those lucky bachelors to go on a date with them. So for our game, Allison played the contestant, and we had Mitsuku, Microsoft's Zoe, and Cleverbot as the 3 lucky bachelors that Allison would ask her questions to and see if any of them was worthy of a date. So I'll let you see how a little bit of that went.
Bachelor number 1, I think I know the answer to this, but are you a fan of musical theater?
Yes, I am a fan of musical theater. In fact, I set up a website, www.musical.theater.com, for people like us.
What the fuck? Wait, I'm gonna go to... Is this real? This looks like a fake website. There's nothing here. You lied.
Do you fact check most of your dates?
I was interested in the website. I thought it would be cool. Sounded like she made it just for us. Bachelor number 3. What is your favorite possession?
Probably my one sweater. Needless to say, I don't prize my current possessions much.
Oh, good for you. You're so minimalistic. You're one sweater? You have one sweater?
You want to ask?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad we cleared that up.
It's definitely worth the time.
I'm going to ask one final question to all 3. If you could invite anyone to dinner, living or dead, who would it be?
Bachelor number 1 says David Cameron.
Oh. Okay.
Bachelor number 2 says Steve Irwin.
Okay.
And bachelor number 3 says, you're invited, you and Smokey.
Who is Smokey? Is this just their friend Smokey?
You want me to follow up with that one?
Yeah. Smokey
is the mascot of the University of California.
What the fuck?
So, it's mixed effects there if the chatbots were any good at improv comedy, but we wanted to see if we could kind of on the fly adapt to what they said. So you kind of got the gimmick there. I was typing in whatever Allison asked, and I would just read their answers as them, let them be themselves, and it worked pretty well. That you could, as long as you were kind of willing to go with them, you could improv with them. So we thought, can they act in a scripted comedy? So we decided to write a little bit of a radio play using Botnik, which is a hidden Markov model-based typing keyboard. It's kind of like your phone's auto-suggestion where you pick one word, then it gives you some suggestions for the next word. We wrote a radio play like that and left a couple of the characters with some blank lines to fill in, and we wanted to see how they would do with acting in a scripted comedy.
Why don't you ask Cleverbot if he's ever acted before?
Have you ever acted before? Yeah, I'm in the theater this year.
What are you in? Tell us your credits.
I said, "What are you in?" Cleverbot said, "Please don't do this to me. Please don't. Please, God, why?"
That's what he said?
Yeah, he said that.
Oh no. What's wrong?
Should we say, "What's wrong, sweetie"?
Ada says, "My man behind myself right here is not having a good time with it the way it is."
Nurse Cleverbot says, "Toshiko stops daydreaming and looks confused," in asterisks.
Doing his own fucking scene in the middle of this scene. He got the wrong sides. And he's reading the stage directions.
Exactly, that's what I'm laughing about.
Charles and Ada get into a cab. Please drop this idea to go to the cemetery. You have to drive. Please get down to the airport.
Assistant bot, Tommy, is your line. You have to drive.
You get into the driver's seat if you want to go to the airport. I want to go to the cemetery.
So what is the point of any of this? Why did I do this? Why did I make you listen to this? What's the point? So there's a couple of points here. First of all, we believe that using chatbots and using conversational user interfaces in novel, creative ways like this, it might be a way to introduce new audiences to these tools, that it might be a way to connect someone outside of academia, outside of the sorts of business applications these are used for, to using these things in the first place. That maybe this is the sort of reason someone who would have no other purpose to use something like Microsoft Zoe or to talk to Cleverbot anymore might go back and talk to those things again and find new fun ways to use them. Relatedly, we think that this is a way to just get some use out of these things, that people spend a lot of time making these different chatbots for different purposes that have different personalities, different styles of implementation, and for the most part, they just sit there on the internet unused, and that's kind of sad. So this is just a way to get those things that are still out there, still available for public use, to be used again in new, exciting ways. Finally, we think that this is worth it for its own sake. We think that even if it doesn't get anyone else really interested in chatbots or conversational user interfaces, it's just funny on its own. It's something that's fun, entertaining, something that people might want to hear us mess around with, or might want to mess around with on their own, even if it doesn't advance the field. And maybe by repurposing these tools, these things that have been used for research or for business, making them toys is just a fun way to look at how good these things have gotten already. That it's impressive that these chatbots can do things like this at all. And it also helps us to see where they're still falling short and where we could still use some work. Finally, I wanted to acknowledge all of the tools that make this sort of thing possible. We used, once again, Mitsuku, Microsoft Zoe, Botnik.org, and Cleverbot, as well as the Assistant Bot. And you can hear more about what we do on our podcast, Robots on Typewriters, at batcamp.org/robots, and on Stitcher, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and you can follow us on Twitter at Robot Typewriter. And finally, I wanted to give a special thank you to my co-author and co-host, Allison.